Welcome to the second week of Nonfiction Readers Advisory, Beyond the Basics. This week is all about maximizing your collection. One of the first ways to get started is to know your collection's strengths and weaknesses. The most comprehensive way to do this is through a diversity audit. I've included information about diversity audits in the list of optional materials. This is because diversity audits take a lot of time, effort, and sometimes money. And it is understandable that not all libraries have the time, effort, or resources to do a diversity audit at the current moment in time. This is why I like to rely on another piece of advice about maximizing your current collection, which is combining fiction and nonfiction. I included a video about this in our required readings. I would also continue to say that every fiction genre has a nonfiction component. You can recommend popular science to a science fiction reader, a historical biography to a historical fiction reader, or even a memoir to a romance reader. Memoirs are about people, and romance books are as well. I also like bringing in other departments for recommendations. It can be helpful to include other voices in conversations about Nonfiction Readers Advisory, especially since people might have other interests and knowledge that you may not be familiar with or aware of. This is also helpful for creating book lists, staff picks, and more. My other suggestion for maximizing your collection is to stay up to date on historical events and plan displays and book lists accordingly. In this week's assignment, I included a site you can refer to for historical events. However, by request, I also included a guide from a school librarian about how to handle displays and even recommending books that relate to controversial or difficult historical events. Since as library staff, you never know which type of books or resources someone might ask for. I found this article from the North Carolina Library Association to be a very helpful guide. Next, if you are involved in your library's collection development or you work alongside that department, it can be helpful to consider which nonfiction books are definitive. These are books that continue to have lasting appeal. On the action steps pages, I included several definitive books for my library. Yours may be similar, they might be different. I would recommend seeing which nonfiction books continue to be popular in your community. Lastly, have a collection of short bet authors. These are authors that have crossover appeal to fiction and nonfiction readers and are a good starting point for a reader branching into a new subject. Again, this is not comprehensive, and by request, I include a longer list of short bet authors within the optional resources. This article from the Memphis Public Library and Information Center offers really helpful advice on short bet authors in general and Nonfiction Readers Advisory in particular. Again, advice to keep in mind, you don't need to read a book cover to cover in order to help it find its reader, which we will get more into next week. However, you do need to know your collection. What are its strengths and weaknesses? You also need to know your patrons. Are they browsers? Do they put books on hold? Are they open to different formats? These are all important factors to keep in mind as you take time to better know your collection. And for this week's discussion, I'm curious to know what are the most popular nonfiction genres at your library and whether or not that has changed over the years, because sometimes these trends do change. I look forward to reading your answers, and until next time.